want to turn to just the story of Michael Sam, because it's a really big deal. And you had a quote in I guess it was an interview you did with Josh Idelson when you were talking about John Carlos, and we should say that you co-authored his memoir, and you said, I guess basically quoting him, the athletes have minds, not only bodies, and
Yeah, that's
expecting
John.
athletes
Yep.
to be just instruments of physical excellence, yet not have an opinion in their heads about the ways in which their physical excellence has been used politically, is to deny them their humanity. And this, this is where sort of we begin to contextualize athletics and sports in the same way that we contextualize people's own labor, and the idea that
Yeah.
you work somewhere, you shouldn't have an opinion about it is just
No, exactly.
absurd. And
I really have to steer people, Sam, to another Sam, but albeit a woman named Samantha Retrosi, who is a 2006 Olympian who wrote a piece that's up on The Nation. It's called "Why the Olympics Are Like the Hunger Games," and that's exactly what Samantha walks people through: is the ways in which Olympians really are workers, and the ways in which their minds are basically colonized by the political realities in which they step into, and by the ways in which they have to basically be salespeople for the various products that are underwriting their very training that over the course of years, and they get training in how to do that. And she keeps going to this analysis, and I think it's a very apt analysis about understanding Olympians as workers, understanding trainers as middle managers, and understanding a whole system of discipline that's very vertically organized.
It's interesting because I think there's an inclination amongst people to be just like, can't we have sports just sort of devoid of these things? I mean, why does my enjoyment of this sort of form of escapism have to be tainted by the fact? I mean, I guess they're not saying it explicitly, but really what they're saying, tainted by the fact that we're talking about human beings.
And you're absolutely right. Chuck Klosterman, the author, he may or may not have been making a reference to me on a recent interview. People on Twitter were telling me he was, where he's basically said some people exist only to be outraged. They don't enjoy sports. And if I could, I don't even know if Chuck was talking about me or not, but I'd love the opportunity to kick that idea in the ass, because basically it's like I love sports, and I've grown up loving sports, and I grew up going to games and sneaking into games and playing games, and I'm actually, if I'm outraged by anything, I'm outraged by the fact that we can't just watch them a la carte, and we can't just enjoy them for what they are. That experience has been so scarred by everything from corporatism to homophobia, racism. I mean, I'm a big football fan, and I live in a town where people root for a team that's named after a racial slur.
Right.
It's like, so then what's your choice? You have to be like, gee, don't be outraged, just watch and enjoy. And it's like, okay, well, it's like, I almost quoted Woody Allen. I'm not going to do that, but for reasons that are probably obvious. But basically, it's like it's like, yeah, you can just smile and watch the game, but at some point you get old, and at some point you die. At some point you have to actually, make an effort and think about the fact that you live in this world and you have a responsibility to other people around you.
It's interesting because I think there seems to be almost a natural life cycle to these type of things where we are still in many respects. There's two different things going on. On one hand, we are still getting the ripple effects of the emancipation, the social emancipation that took place, at least in terms of legislation in the 60s and in the 70s, in terms of women's rights, in terms of African Americans, in terms of minorities, in terms of gender identification, sexual identification, and we're also on some level, sort of taking these principles of labor too and applying them to sports. And it seems like it throughout, first it was the workplace. Oh, really? Can't we just go into work and, I don't know, ogle my secretary? Why does that have to be ruined now? And it just seems like sports is one of the last sort of frontiers.